Drake's latest comeback was supposed to change the narrative, but instead it might have made things worse. Cause after months of teasing Iceman, Drake shocked the fans by not dropping one, but two, but he dropped 3 full-length projects at the same time. Iceman, Maid of Honour, and Habibti, or however you would say it. But it's a combined 43 tracks and over 2.5 hours of music. Critics immediately called it bloated and directionless and desperate. But here's the real question: was this actually Drake's worst release ever, or was it just a calculated business move disguised as a musical comeback? Hey man, the great Nate here. I'm in the middle of editing the video, but I want you to do me a favor. I want you to count how many times I said, you know what I'm saying, in this video. Alright, let's get back to it. Drake is still one of the most streamed artists on earth, you know what I'm saying? But ever since losing to Kendrick Lamar in that beef, something feels different, you know what I'm saying? The confidence, shaky, the music overstuffed, and the public perception completely fractured. So today we're gonna be breaking down why Drake dropped 3 albums at once, while critics are calling it a disaster, and whether this is actually about music or escaping a massive record deal. Alright, now let's get into it. Now on paper this should have been huge. Iceman has heavily been teased for weeks with elaborate promo stunts and cryptic marketing, and like fans expected Drake's big redemption arc after one of the most damaging periods of his career. You know what I'm saying? He was making big old ice sculptures and doing all that crazy stuff. But remember, Kendrick Lamar publicly dismantled him in one of the biggest rap feuds in years. Drake's image just took a massive hit online. Critics started questioning whether he'd finally lose cultural relevance. So expectations for Iceman was sky high, you know what I'm saying? But then Drake flooded streaming services with 2 extra surprise albums nobody asked for: Habibti, or however you say it, and Maid of Honour. And suddenly, instead of feeling like an event, it felt like homework. But to be honest, this is the criticism Drake has been fighting for years. They've been saying his album are too long, you know what I'm saying? Projects like Scorpion and Certified Lover Boy was already accused of being overloaded with filler. But this time Drake took it to another level, you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna be honest, you know what I'm saying? Especially if Drake is your favorite artist, you know what I'm saying? Like Drake, like him specifically, like he don't really drop. Like he'll drop an album, every year, like every 2 years or so, and tour, and then just like completely disappear. So if my favorite artist, like Chris Brown, like he's one of my favorite artists, but Chris Brown don't really drop singles anymore, you know what I'm saying? He hop on features, here and now, but he, every 2 years every 2 or 3 years he'll drop an album, tour, and disappear like for a year or two, you know what I'm saying? So for my favorite artist, I want you to give me as much music as I can for while you are, here at the moment before you disappear. That way I'm held to, with enough music for when you came back or when you come back. But according to critics, only one album, Iceman, even really had like, standout moments, you know what I'm saying? Reviewers, praised songs like Ran to Atlanta and National Treasures for the cold production and darker atmosphere. But outside those highlights, many critics felt like the music was, repetitive and emotionally empty and completely drowned with auto-tune, which I agree. Like, it didn't really sound like Drake on them song. Now, here's when things get in. I don't think Drake released 3 albums because he was creatively inspired. They think he was just trying to get out of his record deal. The Guardian compared this move to what Prince did in the 90s, intentionally flooding labels with material to fulfill contracts faster. Tupac did the same thing when he was trying to get out of death row, but he eventually, ended up staying. But Drake himself, basically hints at this across the albums. Lines was about, wanting freedom and wanting independence, fighting the man, and then critics started wondering pretty much, was this less of an artistic statement and more of a contractual dump? Because if you owe your label albums, dropping 3 at once suddenly makes it a lot more sense. Now, from a business perspective, this might actually work. Even critics who hated the album admitted Drake understands streaming culture better than almost anyone, pretty much. Like, more albums mean more songs, more playlists, more streams, more chart entries, more algorithm dominance. It's the musical equivalent to flooding the zone. One GQ writer even argued that Drake could have made one really strong 13-track album out of all this material instead of overwhelming listeners with quantity. And honestly, that's probably the biggest criticism of modern Drake. Not that he's talentless, but he stopped editing himself. Now, what makes this moment really fascinating is that Drake still sounds like he's unsure of who he wants to be. And it's literally like documented proof. Like, just listen to his music. On Iceman, he's bitter and confrontational. On Maid of Honour, he's pivots into dance music and club records. On the Habibti, or however you say it, he goes back into emotional R&B territory. It's like 3 different versions of Drake fighting for control at the same time, you know what I'm saying? And maybe that's the real issue when it comes to Drake. Old Drake albums work because even when they were emotional or messy, they felt focused, you know, on one topic, you know what I'm saying? Now, the internet reaction to this was brutal. It was a whole bunch of memes and all types of stuff. Like, Reddit threads exploded with jokes about the album being shopping mall music and streaming service bloatware, you know what I'm saying? Others argue Kendrick Lamar permanently changed how people hear Drake now. And maybe that's true, you know what I'm saying? Because before the beef, Drake could drop mid music and still completely dominate the conversation. Like, CLB was completely mid to me, but it dominated the charts, you know what I'm saying? But now people seem more willing, you know, to admit when they're disappointed in Drake. But despite all of this, Drake is still Drake. He's still massively streamed, still commercially huge, still impossible to ignore, which raises the biggest question of all. Does Drake actually need critical acclaim anymore? Or has he fully transformed into a streaming era content machine? Now, Drake's triple album drop might go down as one of the strangest moves of his career. A comeback, a contract play, a streaming strategy, or maybe all 3. But one thing is clear, this wasn't just, you know, the triumphant return many people expected. And unless Drake delivers another undeniable classic hit, the conversation around him, it might be shifted from the biggest rapper alive to the artist who forgot how to stop releasing music. But what y'all think, man? Am I tripping for making this video? I'm pretty sure these Drake fans gonna get in my comment section blaming my ass, but it don't even matter, you know what I'm saying? You know, like it, you know, comment if you agree with me, comment if you disagree with me, you know, I'll be in the comment section with y'all. You know, I'm willing to discuss it all, you know, even if you don't like the video, like, you know, subscribe, all of that. But, you know, I'm out. Let's get it.